Hello, all you awesome nerds. Welcome to the most amazing podcast in existence today. Yes, the Nerdy Old Men Podcast. I'm your co-host, Redneck Wes, and no, I didn't have to murder a robot to get online today. And as always, here with me is that mean old bald-headed bastard Chad.
That is correct. And here we are, and we brought in our good buddy Terrance today, who is our resident IT expert, because we're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff today, something from our childhood that, unless you're an old person, you're not going to figure out what it is because you're used to the Xbox Live and PlayStation Network and stuff like that. Terrance, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about our first foray into online play. Back in the day when we wanted to play anything together, we had to be in the same room. We had to have, two controllers, and look at each other to play. The idea of playing with, anybody remotely was just a fantasy. So when we first, had, our computers and was able to get a modem, and that's what you heard at the intro there was what it would sound like when we had to dial up. There was no internet. We just connected to a bulletin board service. And that is how we would play, our online games.
Yeah, BBSs is what we're going to talk about today. And I know that anybody that's listening to this that is of our age group knows about BBSs. And I remember back when we were in school, man, and everybody was getting onto this stuff. We had a couple BBSs locally, and we can talk about that here in a minute, back in our small town that we grew up in. But I remember, man, sitting there, right? At midnight.
On the power of your 386.
Yes, absolutely. But at midnight, man, waiting for your turns to reset on your BBS door games, which is what they were called, man, and trying to beat all your buddies in. So you got all the busy signals, and then you got the crashing, killing robot symbol or sound. So
Was that not the greatest sound?
well, it was like victory. I mean,
Yes,
it was
you
like
knew
it was
you
like
had won.
you knew you were in before anybody else, right?
Because I knew if I heard that sound, Chad and Terrance were not on, and I could get all my stuff done
Before
in
we
the
blew
games
you
that
up.
we played before they got on.
And you have to remember, this is a new time, using the modem to connect computers together and the phone service. So there was, this feature that we used to have called call waiting.
That's right.
So when you were on the phone and somebody called in, you could switch lines to talk to the other person. Well, this was devastating to your online play. So if you were connected and anybody picked up the phone in your house or beeped in and it caused that noise, it would interrupt the connection. So people had to remember when you were connecting to put *70 in front of the phone number so it would turn off call waiting.
Or a note taped
And
to the
so
phone
we would do
saying,
this-
don't pick up.
We would do this tactic to try to knock our friends offline if they had forgot.
No,
That's
we never
absolute-
did that.
So back in the day, we participated back in our little town. We had a couple different BBSs, and
What is a BBS, real quick there, Chad?
it's a bulletin board system. Isn't that right, Terrance? Or what is the S for?
It was system, sure.
System, yeah. And we had
Or
one,
service, depending on who you're
service,
asking.
right. And we had one that there was an older fellow that ran in our town, and then there was one that one of our high school buddies ran too, and Brad, who fancied himself a bit of a hacker back in the day. Anyway, I think maybe we all watched a little bit too much of the War Games movie and things like that, and that kind of got us thinking that we could do these sort of things. But
I can take over the world.
Right.
33 megahertz.
so, Wes, give us a little some history. I know you did a little bit of research on BBSs.
Well, this was real quick. I didn't know this, but the first public one was back in 1978. It happened during the blizzard of 78, and it was in Chicago. There were two guys, and they had, they're snowed in, and it's like, hey, I wonder if we can hook our computers together and, work on stuff. And that was the genesis of the internet. Unless Al Gore had a hand in it.
God, I wish we could have figured that out, right?
But that was really what it was sharing files, and, they developed a system, and it's like, wow, this is really cool, and it could have some actual real-world applications. And I was looking, and this was something that I found funny, because it was way higher than I thought, but there's, according to the internet, there's still 373 BBS is in operation, and most of those are in the U.S. I just thought that was really neat because I figured once the web had taken over that would have gone the way of the dodo, but apparently some people still get on there and
absolutely because
do whatever they do.
And we need to find that because I need some fix of you know what I'm talking about. Trade wars. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Terrance, you remember our trade wars times.
I remember that. I mean, you got to imagine how, kids today don't understand, playing a text game. I mean, we're playing these games on the BBS. You have to realize it's 100% text. Anything on the screen is a character pretty much that you could type.
There are no pictures.
And so this was, we're coming from, we're playing our Nintendo, so we are used to having games with some graphics. But now we get this ability to play with each other online and strategize. There's strategy happening outside of the game. We're making deals with each other.
A lot of deals made at school.
And, we would go and we would play so that we were playing a game outside of the game as well.
Yes.
And it was all text-based.
Yeah, you're right. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's in space, right? And it's loosely it's a big cross between Star Trek, a little bit of Star Wars, mainly Star Trek type stuff, because later on you had the Ferengi, were a computer-operated bad guy. But it was a resource trading game with space combat. So you could blow each other up. So in essence, you had ore, equipment, and organics type material that you could purchase at one port and trade it, sell it to another port, and that's how you made money. And you bought shields and fighters and different types of ships, and then you built your planets. And you remember how we defended our planets, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, you would actually every game of Trade Wars was randomly generated. I think it was 100 sectors, and they were connected randomly. So we would try to find those paths that there was only one way in and one way out.
A hole.
And we would find a hole that way so that we could defend those and lay mines and fighters into the sectors where we would hide our planets at the very back.
Yes. And then you could work in corporations together. So you could be in like teams and you could like trade in and out of
I'm
planets.
still mad about that, guys.
Hey, well, look, you chose the wrong side. I can't help it but that. But I promise you, this game was so much. I remember so much a part of it was like in high school, part of our high school there for a long time. Man, we almost got in fist fights with people in school over this thing. It was crazy. And our poor friend Benji, and I hope Benji listens. But do you remember Benji and his ship that we blew up every single day?
Oh yeah, we would find him and blow him up because people have to realize that we had to take turns to play.
Yes, that's an important part. Only one person at a time.
One person at a time, and so one person had a ship which had a certain amount of turns it could take. Bigger ships could take more turns, more expensive ships, and so if you could get on before everybody else, you could find where somebody is. Now, and if you ran out of turns, you would write down where somebody like Benji was. And you would call, your other friend and say, "Hey, I found Benji. He's in sector 242."
Right.
And then everybody else, if you were out of your turn, somebody else could go after him.
Yeah, and we did that horrible, nasty stuff to each other. But man, it was fun. And I remember at some point someone came out with and Terrance, you're the programmer in us, so I don't know the exact term, but it was like a little side program that would run. It would run like macros or something, and you could tell it how much to trade in between ports.
Was that the auto trade
macro
like that came out?
Yeah, something. You could just tell it to go, man, and within just a few moments you'd zap the port out. You'd trade everything so that it would you just burn through it and make all kinds of money going it that way.
I don't really remember the macroing system that we used, but yeah, it was just basically just a little script you could have to say buy low and sell high between these ports.
Right.
And what was bad was not being the tech god that I am now. and
That's a good one.
Yeah, and not having the knowledge to do stuff like that. I never could figure out how you guys were. Okay, for our listeners that are new. Chad and Terrance went to a different middle school than I did, and we met in high school. So there was still some little, East-West rivalry going
A little
on
bit,
there.
yeah.
And,
It's okay that we were better. It's all right.
The community hyped it up a lot for whatever reason between our two middle schools.
It really was silly. But that's a story for another day.
But it was funny because Terrance was really big into the computers, and for me it was, that was all the money in the world was to get a computer. And my dad was like, "Well, you got a computer," not realizing that it's obsolete in like 6 months.
But it was built in 1979.
Actually, I know I had one that was built. It was oh gosh, this would have been what, 91, 92?
Yeah, maybe so.
Somewhere around in there, and it was brand new, and I remember I was one of the first ones to have a 33 megahertz because people were coming from the 286s to the 386s.
Boom!
Yes.
You were screaming, right?
Oh, it had the turbo button.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, it's kids today, when they get their computers, they're pretty much in a box. They don't have to worry about buying too many components. And while you still can, it's kind of, I think, fell out of fashion. And so when we first got our computers in high school, I mean, that was still in, we were still in a hobbyist phase of computers. And so I remember putting in my first sound card because the first computers you had didn't really make a lot of sound.
No, just that beeping and whistling and stuff.
I got my first sound card and CD-ROM from Electronics Boutique.
There you go.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, I think it was $500.
Wow.
If I remember right, it was insane. But it was, I thought it was, something I wanted. It was super cool.
Now, did you take out the? You had the tape deck, didn't you? The magnetic tag.
I don't think
I remember coming over to your house and you had taken the cover off your computer, and I think you were putting the sound card in, and I was just like, oh my god, this is.
Well, I used to open my computer up and unplug wires inside because everybody would come to my house and they would want to play on my computer, and I'd want to play myself, so I would pretend like it was broken by unplugging wires. Just saying, oh no, sorry, it's unavailable today, guys. Sorry.
See,
his mom hid food and he tore up his toys. I'll tell you what.
This is where Terrance's foray into all things technical began, is trying to hide the crap from us. So
and we used to, and modems. I mean, the modems were new. We had to buy our modems and install them ourselves.
I can't remember exactly where I bought mine at, but I was so freaking excited to get it because somebody had been talking about trade wars, and I said, I must do this. I just absolutely must do this, man. So I saved up money, mowed yards, something, went and bought that sucker because just like you, my dad and I had put this computer together with a bunch of scrap stuff that we had come up with. And back then that was like a huge thing. I was like, I'm a hacker. That's what I am. I'm that guy. I need a hood to pull over my head and sit in a dark room. That's what I thought when actuality I was just
you really thought you had
keys.
accomplished something by building that, and then it really, I think that's like your son, because he's into all that, and you encourage it because you had the very basics of it, and he's learned. He does stuff that just blows my mind, but it's just the difference in the generations.
Oh,
My dad didn't. He was like, "Well, you have a computer," and it was static. It was never going to change.
Right.
And
I mean, there was there's not as much necessity now. I mean, there's no need to do it because you have pretty much what you already have.
Yeah, I mean, your phone's faster than that. But we trade wars was kind of our thing, and that was a big deal for all of us that we played. But there were other games. Now, they were called door games for some reason, BBS door games. But there were some other games that we played, and all of us obviously were heavily, and still we played last night sitting over the microphones, Dungeons and Dragons, but a little bit of fantasy in the BBS world was Legend of the Red Dragon.
Oh, that was such a great game.
Yes, whether or not you're going to court and marry Violet during the process, right? Which was her name in that, and that was a neat game, right? I mean, I can't remember exactly.
I attacked with my stick.
Yes. Yeah, it had a little bit of the traditional role-playing aspects to it. Lord, is what it was short for. I played it, but it seemed like it wasn't was it a reoccurring thing? It didn't seem like it was a reoccurring
Yeah,
thing.
I don't think there was as much a competition between people. I mean, I did remember that it, inspired me to kind of try to make my own, game in, our computer class in high school. And so I basically modeled a little, text-based game that had some very, generic elements in it.
Right.
That was, that basically looked like Legends of the Red Dragon. Just, it was just for me to kind of understand how it worked.
Well, and again, that type of thing, because that's, you create software and things like that for a living, right, Terrence? So
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I do.
that kind of started you down that path. So
That
not-
did. I mean, we were, I didn't realize that we were very, even though we had a small school, small county, we were very blessed to have the computer, classes that we did.
Yeah, and let's visit that real quick because Clarence Homer Lowe, Wes's uncle,
My uncle, yeah,
was the greatest teacher I have ever had. And I didn't even get into I mean, I did a little bit of the computer stuff like all of us did in his classes, but not to the level that Terrance did. But his classes were so fun. And in conjunction with us running home and trying to get on the BBSs and things like that, I think his tutelage and his teaching helped us kind of broaden our horizons in our little, one horse town, right?
Yeah,
I
I mean, it
know
was
he had to
great.
fix a lot of stuff that we tore up.
Well,
I mean, it
that's
was. I
accurate.
mean, he put a lot of effort into keeping that computer lab up and running. Because that was a big deal for the school. I mean, we probably had about, I don't know, 30, computers in there at the time, and he had to maintain them.
Right, and this is 1993, 94, 95,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's
early
a big
90s.
deal, especially for a small county like that.
And then to,
Tennessee.
have a curricula for pretty much everything. We had Turbo Pascal, we had GW Basic, there was a WordPerfect class, a DBase class. And I think there were some other ones too. I mean, pretty much everything that at the time you could do with a computer, like in an office space, he taught.
Right, and I remember doing spreadsheet stuff with
Oh yeah,
him.
Lotus. There you go.
yeah, Lotus
Lotus,
1,
yeah.
2, 3. And to be honest with you, that set me on a path of really liking that kind of stuff. Now, the last job I had before I moved to a different company, I did a whole lot of analytical analyst work, and I did a lot of stuff in Excel. Building spreadsheets and building graphs and charting trends and things like that. Well, that mindset started way back there in Homer's class. Homer's a nickname, by the way, but Homer's class way back then with Lotus 1, 2, 3. So just when you mention that, and it kind of made me think that way, and how these type of things, the BBSs,
Well, it's
and
it's
his
very
class,
hands-on.
right? It pushed us in that direction.
Well, I'll be sure to share that with him when
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
talk to him
'cause
later.
I mean, I have
we love
very
him to
fond
death.
memories of our Christmas activities in his class, like programming like 30 sheets of code just to make jingle bells.
Absolutely, and that set you in the right direction.
And heaven forbid you get something in the wrong spot because it would just take off on a.
Oh yeah, I mean, so we had all these things that we do. We computers. I mean, we still had our Nintendos, and of course, those. The graphics were better than what were on the PC at the time.
Yes, absolutely.
And we still played things like you kind of transitioned from the BBS to things we played together. And like Homer's class was like Scorched Earth. Do you remember that?
Yes,
Oh, gosh, that was
I
a good
totally
game.
forgot about that. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was kind of like a precursor or predecessor to what, like
Worms.
Worms, or what is it? Angry Birds. Sort of.
Yeah.
It kind of has that same feel.
Yeah, where we would just have a bunch of like little, tanks or something on the screen, and we'd each control one tank and take turns and shoot at each other.
Exactly right. But you're talking about war game type stuff. Back to the
Sure.
BBS door games.
Oh, yes.
Realms Elite.
Yeah.
Bree.
Oh gosh.
And this one was very special because it allowed it transmitted data between multiple BBSs. So there was a global group. Well, we'll say global, but several other BBSs would work together,
Right.
and that's why they called it realms.
Right.
Is that our realm was versing other realms.
And you could, I played it, and we all played it together, but I know you could accumulate money and put money into a center pot to purchase like these
The
large.
ooey good bluey.
Ooey, I knew somebody would remember that, and it was a bomb that you would just blow the hell out of the
It
other
would
guy.
it would destroy their whole
Oh yeah, you could
system.
nuke other people. You could do chemical warfare. It was kind of like a political almost game where you could, or like Risk, because you had a population you had to maintain.
Well,
Then you
there
had to
was
fight
things
off
like
things.
what was it? You could mine, you could have entertainment, you could have
I
what was
think
it,
you had
crops,
propaganda.
Yeah, yeah,
and you had to
again,
maintain a balance to grow your area.
right, but a game like that would be so taboo now with
Oh yeah.
with all of the PC stuff that goes on. But back in the day with us, we were like, heck yeah, let's nuke the hell out of that guy. Let's go for it. Yeah, what chemical weapons? I'm all in. Let's
That's
do
right.
it.
Geneva
Have, like,
Convention. What is that?
espionage, like you could
Yeah.
go in and sabotage people and
Yeah,
you
do
could
very
espionage.
subversive things.
Yeah, yeah. Screw that other guy's BBS. He's done.
Oh, I remember when we were working on our Ooey Gablooey, and we were almost there, and like the day before we were going to send it, we got nuked, and then
Yeah, and it just
start
wipes
over.
you out, man. It just wipes you out. But I remember
Game over, man.
Yes,
Game over.
yeah. Terrance, what was the name of the BBS that the older guy ran in town there? Do you remember? I can't remember what his name is.
Corner
but-
BBS.
Corner
I know
BBS.
it was. Yeah, it was Jeff Robinson.
Yeah, Jeff. Do you remember he had a BattleTech game that was a text-based type game on there, and he got so angry because we ganged up on him. You remember
don't
that?
remember that
You
one.
don't
I
remember
don't.
that? Oh my gosh, I
what
do.
was that
He
one?
got so mad because, and you could tell like in the text message that he sent out, and it was all misspelled, and it was like, "Shit, you think I crazy" or something like that, and he was
was
like
so
so
mad.
mad because all these high school kids had just pummeled him. I'm like, we've been doing this for years on Trade Wars, and we still get
Yeah,
along.
and I remember Jeff lived like
was
maybe like just a couple streets over.
Yeah,
you know,
not
from
far.
where I live, not a lot. And I'm pretty sure. I mean, he helped when I put in my first sound card. I mean, because because since he was running the BBS, he was really geeky into the hardware. He was
Yes.
definitely, I'm trying to think how much older Jeff was than us at the time, like maybe 10 years older than
Yeah,
us.
10 or 15, something like that.
I mean, so he was, in his 20s, I would say at this time, and he would help all of us, and try to encourage us, to get into more techie
Right,
things.
yeah, and he gave me a old power supply for something I was building, and I really appreciated that. Now I did have to take it apart and take and I had to take a butter knife and scrape out the nicotine on the inside of it. Man, it was like this yellow sludge, that was all because the dude smoked like a freight train, man. I don't know, it looked like a vaping studio before there was vaping, but it was all cigarette smoke. But man, that was some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, Bree was the stuff, and it just seemed like those were the games that we played on the BBS.
Well, I think a lot of that
Well, I
too
mean,
was because
it's-
it was so similar to Dungeons and Dragons.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lord, yes.
Yeah, because we really didn't have, an avenue to play remotely, with each other.
No.
I
Like
mean,
with-
it was a shared experience thing. The idea of that in a video game to us was completely new. Because anything we played, we had our own individual experiences. Whether we played Zelda or Mario, we could talk about the different levels, but we didn't impact each other by our playing.
right. But the BBS stuff was days gone by, man. That stuff is gone, and now it's the way of Xbox Live and PlayStation Network.
And now we
everything
have
else,
other
man.
online games that we can play. We can play D&D with like Roll20. We can play World of Warcraft together. We can play. There's all kinds of Warcraft. We got talk about all our strategy games we used to play. Warcraft, Command and Conquer.
Yes, Command and Conquer. Yeah.
And that's when we, that's because even before we had online play, we moved from the BBSs to LAN parties.
That's right. Yeah. Being able to get
I mean, you got kids today don't remember. We're lugging like 30-pound monitors around, and so we could all just run wires in one room so we could play together.
Yeah, and we absolutely did that crazy stuff, and to think that we did that stuff in the the mid '90s, which was nuts.
Oh yeah, I mean we'd pack up our hardware in our cars and drive to somebody's house and just run wires everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we really thought we had done something, very creative there. It's like, oh man, I got this, and it might be like a switcher box or something. It's like, oh my gosh, we can all plug into this one.
all these big,
That's right.
big white plastic boxes of
And we would
stuff,
be crammed into little areas. I mean, I remember Neil's apartment, and we would cram into just as the living room there, and we'd have 6 to 8 PCs and wires everywhere.
He's such a fire hazard with all of the plugs, man.
And everybody just laying on top of each other, and it's just
Sleeping
like,
in the living room.
and it's sitting there, and we're playing like Command and Conquer and Warcraft, and people are throwing stuff around the room. Oh, engineers, you took over my base in 2 seconds. Why'd you do that?
Well, and that's the part that I kind of miss being in college at over in Cookeville, and but I can remember coming in, and it was like I want to say it was like a Sunday, and I had stopped by, and there's just it looks like a battlefield. There's computers everywhere. There's cords everywhere. There may or may not be a Jason sleeping in a Papazon.
Well, there's always Jason sleeping in a Papazon.
But it was that was the part that I missed, and I think not being as tech savvy as what you guys were, I missed out a lot on that, because I kind of had a spell where I was just like, I'm a history guy. I need books, and I have lots of books.
I'm not into your nerdy stuff, guys.
Yeah,
it wasn't so much that I changed. I was a book nerd.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's some good stuff on the old BBS, man. And you guys that are listening, if you've had fun experiences with BBSs and other door games that we may not have mentioned, man,
Well, there was a little time in there too where we actually had graphics towards the end.
That's true.
If you remember, Rip Term, it added like some little graphical images in there. Like when you would go to the base, you would see like a picture of a space station, which was all generated with text characters, but at least it was a picture.
That's true. That's true. But like I was saying, yeah, if we, you guys that are listening to this, if we would love to hear some of your BBS stories too, and you can, reach out to us on our social media. My son is running our YouTube page now, so he's putting all of our audio on there. So look on there and give us some comments there. Comment on our Facebook and Twitter and the Instagram as well. And we'd love to hear some of those stories that you had about BBSs. And since Terrance is our special guest again today, we will hit him again with the Nerdy Old Men Rapid Fire Question Session. Okay, Wes, do you want to go first, sir, since we have our victim again? He answered so well last time. Let's see what we can do with him again.
Back for more. Okay, Terrance, I got to ask you, Nintendo or Sega?
Ooh. Oh, I'm going to have to go Sega.
Sega! Okay. Your favorite comic book villain of all time?
Oh, villain. That's hard for me.
Villain, yeah.
Magneto.
Magneto, yes.
That also is the correct answer. Would you rather have a comic book TV show or a comic book series of movies?
I would say movies.
Bigger budget, yes.
Yeah, that's why.
All right, here, hypothetical situation. We asked this to Mike at Mike's House of Comics and Collectibles the other day. You are on a 4-hour road trip. The radio does not work in your car. And you have one superhero or supervillain that is riding with you on this trip. Who is it?
Wolverine.
That's tear the hell out of your car.
Ride. What else you got, Wes? You got one more?
I would say this. If you could go back, what game on the BBS would you play?
Trade Wars.
Absolutely. There is no
Also
other answer for that. Yes, there's no other answer other than that. I would play it today if I could play it today.
If anyone knows a BBS that is still running Trade Wars, you can reach Chad at nerdyoldmen@gmail.com.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. Hey, but seriously, everybody look up our social media. Share all of our stuff and like it, please. And go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe and like that as well. All of that stuff gets posted on our Facebook and everything else. Wes handles our Instagram, and we'll reach out and get some more show ideas and stuff. Also,
we've got some merch on the way.
That's
Anybody's
right.
Interested in a T-shirt from the Nerdy Old Men podcast?
That's right, Wes. Tell them who's making those shirts for us and give them a little shout out.
Misty Mountain Creations is going to be making them. They're a local shop here in town. We always try to support local folks if we can, and this is someone that we went to school with.
That's right.
Amy, she's been running it, and
Misty
they just
Mountain
started.
Creations. Misty Mountain Creations. You can find that on Facebook. I've already found it.
Yes, she's got a Facebook page, and then we're working on. They've got us. They were the ones that made our logo for us. That's going to be on the shirt on the front. Right now, it's gray shirt in black text. So if you'd be interested in something like that, reach out to us. And,
Yeah,
and
and
we
they
can get you
also
hooked up on that.
right, and they also helped develop our new logo,
Yes, they
which
did.
my son with his Twitter handle at OG_catcat. He is our audio engineer and runs our YouTube page.
I just love that name.
Yes, he wanted to make sure that I mentioned that the logo had changed and the story behind that, so that people would be able to notice that and know that it's still the same podcast.
Yeah, it's
but
still
I
us.
do
We
dig
just-
I
we
do
got
dig
our
it.
own-
I think it looks good. It's custom, and that's a good thing. So, Terrance, thank you for joining us again, our resident everything knows everything IT fella.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And again, yeah, if we could get back to playing Trade Wars, we would do everything we could to not punch each other in the face and still have a good time like we always did. So, but until next time, I am in fact the bald-headed bastard Chad, and this is Wes.
The redneck hillbilly super tech guy. Y'all believe that, right?
Yeah, we believe it all the time. And our good buddy Terrance.
We'll catch you next time. Y'all.
Absolutely. I got connected.